like to introduce Robert Weeks, who is a litigation partner and the London managing partner of Crowell & Mooring. Thank you, Robert, for agreeing to talk to us about and present Crowell.
Pleasure.
So the first thing I noticed coming in here today was your fantastic new offices. Still smell the fresh paint. What was the rationale for moving, and what does the move here now look like going forward for Crowell?
Well, you're very welcome. This is the very first meeting I've actually had in this particular boardroom, so congratulations. We'd been in Tower 42 for a long time. Tower 42 for me was a great home for us when we were at a particular stage of our development. Now we're a much bigger firm, much more well established, and I think our clients expect us to have just better meeting rooms, better facilities. And we've welcomed a number of clients here already, and they can already see the difference. So this is kind of synonymous with the development of Crowell in London.
And where do you see Crowell in London going? What's the ambition?
From strength to strength, Jonathan. So when I arrived here, there were, would you believe, only 6 of us. And I think if you look around the building today, we're now at 90 plus. So in that
world domination
in that 5 to 6 year period, we've grown very significantly, and the firm is keen to see that growth continue. So we're looking for talented lawyers in various sectors to continue with that growth plan.
And how do you keep talented lawyers? I think the challenge now we're seeing is particularly with the hybrid working, retention. Is there a master Crowell plan here for retention?
I think that's all about teamwork, working together, communication, people knowing why they're here, people kind of sharing the vision of what we're trying to do here. And I think we communicate pretty well. I've got some great people around me that come up with silly ideas about how you communicate with people effectively when they're working remotely. And I think we're pretty good at that. I think we did well during COVID as well in communicating with our team. And I think we've kind of continued with that. So we don't lose many people, which is good. And I think we work very hard to make people feel part of the Crowell team, and that's important to them.
And talking about part of the Crowell team, obviously London's one of your offices, and with about, I think, 13 offices you have,
Yep.
From the Middle East to London and across the States. How do you keep that sense of community internationally as well?
We work really hard at it. So we've got a good budget for travel. I try and make sure there's a London partner at every DC partners meeting, for example, to make sure that London is kind of front and center at every DC meeting. We have a lot of opportunities for the associates and counsel to travel to the US and other places. We've got a trainee on secondment in Brussels at the moment. We've got a young associate on secondment in Doha. Although we've just brought them back due to what's happening in Doha today. Good timing. We work hard at that cross-border kind of relationship. And I think the harder you work at it, the better the cultural fit is. So we kind of treat the US like a client, like a great big client, and we talk to the partners all the time, and we communicate well with them. And I think we've done well at integrating London into the global firm.
Okay, now there's one, let's call it a toy, that I keep hearing about from on your website and your US partners, yellow ducks.
They're not all just yellow, actually.
Oh, they're not all just yellow. Okay.
We have special ducks for special occasions. Some of them are different colours.
And is the ducks coming
to
the
duck
London
story? Would you like the
Yeah,
duck
I'd love
story?
to hear the duck story.
So when you're aware that Crowell is a spin-off from Jones Day.
Yes.
So 46 years ago, a number of partners spun off. They arrived in Pennsylvania Avenue. In their new offices, there was a very posh fountain in reception. And they looked at the fountain and they thought that was a bit too serious and a bit too grown up. So overnight, one of the US partners filled that fountain with rubber ducks, yellow rubber ducks. And it was said that day that Crowell wanted to take its work very seriously, but not itself too seriously. And from that moment, every office has its own rubber duck. Brussels has a rubber duck that's bigger than me, which scares me a little, but they've got that in reception. And so we have this kind of cultural kind of recognition that the duck represents the fun element of Crowell & Mooring. And it's incredible actually, because I was doing a pitch only yesterday, and the client that we were pitching to went home with 4 ducks because they wanted them for their grandchildren. And I thought, great. So the duck is kind of emblematic of who Crowell and Mooring is.
It's interesting. And talking about, you mentioned you went on a pitch yesterday. I know you made partner at 25, which in today's last year.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting me out of trouble there. And you've obviously been a very successful and well-known litigator. Why managing partner?
Do you know, that takes me back really to the dark days. So I was a Hammond's partner at one point, and I was not in management at all. And as you probably know, you're probably old enough to remember that Hammond's went through some difficult times.
Yes.
And some of my London partners at Hammond's said to me, Robert, you seem to know what's wrong with Hammond's. Rather than just saying what's wrong, why don't you help in putting it right? And I kind of had this decision to make as to whether I would leave or stay and try and put things right. And I decided the latter. And from that point, went into management. So I was, the first Londoner on the board of Hammond's, and then became the Hammond's London managing partner. And really, that was in a crisis. And it taught me a lot about, how to resolve difficult times in a law firm, which, I don't take any pride in, but it was tough. And I think I've been in management almost ever since. So I kind of fell into it for that reason.
Right. Okay. And what keeps you awake at night? Work, management, something else that you don't need to share with us?
I think what keeps me awake, I think once I wake up, so if you wake up early, I think you start thinking about your day and your next trial. Keep me awake at night. It's kind of what's going on in the world right now. It kind of scares me. So in terms of, the various conflicts there are going around the world. So overnight, I've been worrying about our people in Doha. Certainly that kept me awake last night. But generally, I have a very, very good ability to sleep. And I think when we're all working hard, that's one of my superpowers. I sleep very well.
And you've been on ITV News, and you've been on the news at 10. How important do you think in today's world media, social media, is for lawyers?
Very. I think you have to engage carefully. I think you have to know exactly what you're trying to say and why. A lot of clients now want you to use media as part of their litigation strategy. So you have to be savvy enough to know what you can say and what you can't say. I think in your particular market, a lot of people are looking at social media to see what firms are talking about before they interview or join. So I think having a sensible and constructive relationship with media and social media is frankly unavoidable.
Okay, and looking at media and taking it a step further to technology, will AI replace lawyers?
Will AI replace recruiters, Jonathan?
No,
never.
No, I don't put my head under the blanket. Yes, there's a space to work alongside it, but I feel, recruitment is fundamentally relationship driven if you're doing it properly.
And that's exactly why I asked you that question, because I think law is very much relationship driven. And I think that at the top end of the law, i.e. in the most complex areas, I think AI will struggle to replace that kind of human input. I think we're already using AI tools to do, disclosure exercises and some corporate due diligence, and I'm sure other firms are doing that. So everyone is going to have to engage with AI to a degree, and most firms are already.
And talking about the human input and looking a bit more on yourself, have you ever had a mentor in your life?
Yeah, I had a really good senior partner when I was a baby lawyer. So I was at a small firm in the West End called Wild and Partners, and we had Edward Wild as the senior partner, and he was fantastic. Very, very, very good with clients, financially very savvy. Taught me a lot about client relationships, about how to manage a law firm and how not to manage a law firm. So I think he, at the very outset of my career, was terrific. And I'm still in touch with Edward today. He rings me now and again when I've done something and says, well done. And it's always lovely to hear from Edward. So yeah, definitely him as a mentor.
And what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Whether from Edward or somebody else.
Edward taught me about confidentiality, which is quite a good story. So when I was a trainee at Wild & Partners, I was paid £1,999 a year. Fantastic. And I've still got that letter of offer on my toilet wall at home, just to remind me. And after about 6 months, I went in to see Edward and I said, Edward, I just can't afford to live in London on this. You've really got to pay me more money. And he said, fine, I'm going to double your salary. You've worked hard. You can have double. Thank you very much, Edward. And I went out that night to the Yorkshire Grey pub, which is still there. And I bought all of my fellow trainees a pint. And one of them said to me, how come you're in the money suddenly, Robert? And I said, because I've had a pay rise. And the following morning, Edward called me back in and he said, Robert, you need to learn what confidential means. And as a lawyer, that's going to be a good thing for you to learn. You having a pay rise was confidential. And now all your fellow trainees know you've had a pay rise. I've had to sort of talk to all of them. So I'm going to take your pay rise away for 3 months and you're going to learn what confidential means.
Wow, that is a good story.
Taught me what confidential means.
And now everyone's salary is online. And
I know,
bandings
but
and
those days have changed, haven't they? But that's what taught me about confidentiality.
And if you could give one bit of advice to younger Robert coming in to follow the theme of you entering the law, what would it be?
I think read as widely as you can. I think clients nowadays expect you not only to be a good lawyer, but also to be kind of very commercial. And I think the more you read as a young lawyer about finance, what's going on in the world, what's going on in the city, the better your career will be. So read as widely as you possibly can. Think about the relationships that you're building when you're a young lawyer, because some of the clients I'm acting for today are people that I knew when I was a trainee, and they've kind of grown up with me, the clients that they were with then. So think about forming early and strong relationships with people you're working with.
Which, and just leading on from that, it's something we advise young lawyers with the additional freedom and flexibility of hybrid working. The negative side of that is making sure you're in the office enough to meet clients and build relationships internally and externally. What's your policy here for flexible work?
We're at 3 days a week at the moment, which seems to be working for us. I think there is a lot of difference in that generation and how they form relationships. So if you talk to your younger lawyers about exactly the point you're making now, they will say to you, well, we did our university degrees remotely, we did law school remotely, we're very used to social media. So they kind of form relationships in a different way than perhaps the older generation do. So I think we've got to recognise that. But we also recognise the fact that different people have different needs. Everyone's in their own rowing boat. So we look at people very much as individuals and see what we can do to help them best develop. And for some, that's being in the office more. And for others, not as much. So we kind of look at people as people.
You've clearly been a very successful lawyer and continue to be, as well as a very well-known and managing partner. If it wasn't the law, is there another burning ambition you had as a young Robert, or even now?
Even now? Gosh, I'm a bit of a train buff. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
So my wife and I are currently doing an awful lot of those Michael Portillo great European train journeys. So we've just done Rome to Sicily, which, Jonathan, is the last train in Europe that still goes on a ferry.
Wow.
There you go. So I think train driver.
I'll look out for you when I'm on next on the train on the way in. Thank you for your time today, Robert. It's been really interesting learning more about Crowell, your plans, these lovely new offices, and about yourself. And thanks for being so candid and open with us about your own self and career. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jonathan. Always
a
pleasure.
Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.